Good morning, my beauties. It is Thursday. Yes, hair's getting long, looking rough. Not much I can do about that, but hey. So I had a couple questions about makeup brushes, and I love talking about makeup brushes because it's something that people usually do not talk about when they talk about what makeup they're doing, how they're applying it. They don't really talk about the tool. If you think about building a car, tools are essential. So tools are always going to set you up for success or failure when you're doing anything, and makeup is no different. So I want to talk about makeup brushes today. The first thing I want to talk about are the two types of makeup brushes. So there's natural bristle, which is usually all one color. They can be light or dark. They will usually have a more matte appearance to the bristles because being natural, they're hair. And yeah, so that is a natural bristle brush, and brushes will always be labeled too. But the second kind is synthetic, which synthetic will most of the time be two color like this. So that is a good giveaway. And then also if you look at the fiber, which I don't know if you can really see here, there's a slight sheen to the synthetic fiber that the natural bristle just doesn't have. And these are very important things to know if you're using a natural or a synthetic brush, because natural bristle is natural hair, boar, badger, all kinds of things like that, different animal hair. But they are porous, just like our hair. They absorb, they will pick up liquid, hold liquid, things like that, which you don't want with a natural brush. So a natural brush you want to use with powder products. And the reason why is because if you use liquid and you're blending it, the little pores of the hairs are going to hold on to that liquid. So it's not going to brush evenly or nicely on your face. You're going to get a lot of streaking. You'll go through a lot of product because your brush will absorb it. So a natural bristle brush will pick up the powder really nicely and lay it down and kind of release the powder as the bristles move and flow. So you get a much nicer, more even blending more quickly with a powder brush or with a natural bristle brush, whether it's cheeks or eyes or, or brows. A natural bristle brush will pick up powder product much better. So a synthetic bristle brush is perfect for liquids because it is a sealed bristle. There are no pores in the or follicles or anything like that to absorb product unevenly. So it picks up cream and distributes cream really evenly and beautifully. It doesn't absorb a lot of the extra product because it's not porous. So you get an even distribution of, say cream contour, lipstick, foundation. If you're doing cream eyeshadow, a bristle brush, synthetic bristle brush is always going to be better. So the one complication is that I believe last year there was a law passed tied into animal cruelty. So from what I've been told, it will be harder to find the natural bristle brushes. So look soon, because a lot of brands have already, like MAC, and I think a couple other Makeup Forever is also already synthetic 100%. So a few brands have already switched over to 100% synthetic brushes because of that. But because the natural bristle is best for powder, it's my favorite brush for eyeshadow. It blends it better, faster. It works more beautifully. So I do have a lot of makeup brushes that I like, but most of my eyeshadow brushes will be natural bristle brushes for that reason. I do have some smaller ones, like this one is actually, it is a one color, but it's a synthetic. I can tell because the bristles are shiny when I look at them. Plus it was labeled. But I could tell by looking at it for those two reasons. But this is great for cream eyeliner. Like I can take an eyeliner like this and literally pick it up and smudge it softly on the eye instead of doing a big, strong, dark line of an eyeliner. So that would be the time that I use a synthetic brush with eyeliner or product around the eye. This is one of my favorite concealer brushes, Sephora. I don't know if they still have it. I think they've recently redesigned their brushes, but synthetic like this is my favorite for concealer. If you've watched any of my videos with my Chanel bronzer, I've been using this one, which is 2-color, which means it's synthetic and ideal for carving out that cheek with cream. My foundation brush I've been using is this synthetic one. It is also 1 color, so this is another 1 color synthetic, but the bristles are shiny. I can see that. And again, it was labeled synthetic. So that was, that's that. So now I will talk about foundation brushes in particular. So most of the time you will find the foundation brushes synthetic because it's going to apply the foundation better. But there are different types of brushes. I just have a few here. I'll show my dirty one. I apologize. But so this is called a stippling brush. This is my favorite for my tinted moisturizer. The benefit of this is you have a little bit of the natural bristle here, the darker one, which kind of picks up the product, but you have the synthetic ones here that really buff it and move it around the skin. So this is really nice for light coverage because what I do if you watch me is I buff and then I come back and I pat on top to make sure that there are no streaks, but I get a nice light, even coverage with that. This is kind of, I believe they call it kind of like a paddle foundation brush. These are like the old school foundation brushes. This is one of my new favorite ones by Royal and Langnickel. It's really fat, but it lays down the foundation really nicely like that. This is another one by Makeup Forever. MAC has one. This is like the classic kind of paddle brush that is flat and you brush the foundation on like this. This does tend to give a more medium to full coverage foundation application, but you can finagle it and kind of use it and get it lighter weight. But generally these paddle brushes are good for more medium to full coverage foundation. That's what is great. So the stippling brushes, these are generally great for light coverage. The paddle brushes are more medium to full coverage. Another one that's medium to full coverage or medium coverage is one like this. So this is medium coverage just because the bristles are nice and soft. So you're going to get just a really soft movement of product around your face. Again, it's synthetic, the 2 colors, but it looks almost like a small powder brush. This gives a really beautiful soft application of liquid foundation. So if you're using a stiffer foundation like I have recently, the Lime Life, or if you have like a foundation compact, this may be a little too soft to kind of pick up that stiffer consistency. But for liquid, it's really beautiful for moderate coverage, like medium coverage foundation as well. There are like kabuki style foundation brushes. This is one from Cover FX that I'm loving. Just about every line has one. Kabukis are normally powder brushes, but they're short and stiff. So that's kind of why I call this like my kabuki foundation brush. But this will buff and this gives full coverage or more coverage really quickly, very nicely. It also picks up the stiffer compact foundations really nicely. And what's cool is that this brush is so stiff and being synthetic, it looks clean, but I've been using this for like a week and a half, and it's not wasting any of my products. So that's really, really great with the synthetic brushes and the stiff brush because it doesn't really work the foundation deeper into it. So that's why I love that. So that's foundation brushes. I will talk about eyeshadow brushes as well. I unfortunately didn't think to bring my clean brushes down. So you're going to see my brushes I've been using here. So these are my personal brushes. There are blending brushes like this that are like the regular kind of classic domed style brush. These are great for the crease and for blending out product. That's why you want the blending brush. Whether you have a big crease or a small crease here, that would determine what size you use. So like I can use something big like this, which is super fluffy. But look how much space that takes up on mine. So I like this because I can work quickly. Haha. And it lays down powder very quickly and I can blend it. But for someone else, this may be all the brush that they can handle. So you want to make sure when you pick your eyeshadow brush that you're also looking at the size of your eyes. So some people may use a little one like this to lay down color on the lid or under the brow, whereas I have a little more space. I use something a little bigger like this. This one is by Smith Cosmetics, and I love this because the way it's pointed, it fits right in the crease, in the corner right there. And I can lay down that color very nicely in the corner. So the round domed ones are blending brushes, and these flat brushes, and I also have one like this, the old school Sephora. These are flat brushes that you use to lay down color. And when you lay down color, it would be under your brow bone or on your eyelid, whether it's something bold and bright here or like a nice soft, you know, skin tone or slightly lighter than skin tone under the brow. So that's what you want the flat brushes for. And again, a variety size is helpful. Say you want to do the halo eye, which is your eye is darker, and then you have that pop of bright shimmer in the center of the eye where it looks like you're being lit in a studio. So you might want to lay down your entire lid with this one, but pop in that center highlight with one like this. Or like this one is one of my favorites for putting the highlight in the corner of my eye because it's really tiny. Sometimes I'll even bump up the highlight on my lip or do the contour underneath my lip with this little guy. So the little one is very handy. And let's see, I do like having like this synthetic one I showed you here earlier. So what I really like about this one is it's thin, is that I don't really wear eyeliner much anymore, but sometimes I want just a little bit of definition above the eye. So what I'll do is I'll tap into a dark eyeshadow and just kind of lightly define on the eye without getting that dark, harsh line. So I really do love this one. It also comes really nicely into laying a little color down right under the eyelashes. Yeah, this one is extremely helpful. I love this one. And then I do also love the little tiny blending one. It's not really blending. It's more for, you know, under the eye blending or the inside corner with highlighter. I do love this. So these little tiny blending ones, just in comparison to the actual eyeshadow brush, they're much tinier, but I love them. So that's the eyeshadow brushes. If you do your eyebrows, I really do like the angled brush for the eyebrows. And there are many out there. This is the old MAC from France. But what I do like when I look for the eyeshadow brushes is I want them to be a little more stiff. I don't want a lot of movement because I'm trying to draw a precise line on an eyebrow. So I don't want to struggle with eyeballing both sides and drawing a straight line and then have my brush be too soft and kind of wiggle and mess up for me. So I like kind of like a nice firm brush. I do find the Anastasia brushes, for me, I think the bristles are a little too long and they move for me. So I'm not a big fan of hers. I have really always liked the MAC one for years now. Yeah, this is the 266, I believe. So yeah, that's the eyebrow. The angled brushes are always good to have a few. You can line your eyelid with them. Kind of the same as the that little thin one I showed you that I like for blending. This will kind of do the same thing, but it's just a difference of how you hold your hand when you use the brush. Another great use for these brushes is you can have one clean and use like around your lip. If you think you have maybe overdrawn a little bit, or if one side is a little uneven, the angled brush does create kind of like a nice crisp line around the lip too. So those are handy to have a few of. I think, if you do like to clean up under your eyebrows sometimes, like I have very thin eyebrows. So when I do my eyebrows, I have to fill in on the skin. I basically draw on my skin. So sometimes that needs to be subtracted and then added in back and forth. So this is one eye brush that is synthetic that I do have. It is, I think, actually a concealer brush for under the eye, but I do personally prefer more of a buffing brush under the eye. So the flat synthetic brush is good for laying down eye primer on the eye or concealer on the eye, but it's also great for going up underneath and cleaning the eyebrows up. So I would say one flat synthetic is definitely good to have for your eye. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big. It's kind of like the width of my thumbnail. My awesome polished thumbnail. It could be a little thinner than that if you want, but that's also a great brush to have. I do have a couple powder brushes. I tend to go back to this really soft domed natural bristle powder brush. I like it when I do it on clients. I tend to roll the skin like this a little bit. On me, it just buffs nicely. Anything bigger than this, and I find I just kind of throw powder everywhere, which just irritates me. So I find this kind of rounded powder brush my favorite. This I think is an old Crown brush, but Sephora does have ones like this. So many. Just look for a domed powder brush. I'm sure Real Techniques has them, although they're synthetic. So, oh, that reminds me. I did want to talk about synthetic brushes for blush. So sometimes when you are applying your blush, it feels like you have a lot of blush that has become powder on your palette, but it's not sticking to your brush. Like it's not making the transfer to your face. Most likely that is a synthetic bristle. So it's loosening the powder, but because it doesn't have the pores of the natural bristle, it's not picking up the product. So if you find that's happening, that it means you're using the wrong type of brush for your powder makeup. So on the other hand, if you're used to that, make sure that when you go to a natural bristle brush, you're going to use much less product. You'll see the difference right away. And it's really beautiful. So I do all of my cream products with my brushes or my beauty blender. We'll talk about that. And then I seal it with my powder brush, and then I move on to my natural bristle brushes to do my powder product, like my powder blush and my powder highlighter. The one thing we didn't talk about, I know it's not a brush, but it is an application tool, so I'll throw it in. This is my Dirty Beauty Blender. I use it all the time. Well, not all the time, not a lot lately, but I do love it. You wet it and it grows in size. It's very magical. It's a beautiful thing. The way they're designed was actually to use this part with the foundation to kind of create overlapping circles to make the blending happen faster. However, I really prefer to use that for my concealer up under the eye, and I think that's what most people do, but I just thought I'd throw that tidbit in there. So the foundation picks up and distributes nicely. The benefit of this is if you have dry skin, it adds moisture to your skin because you're adding water to your skin. So you get it wet, squeeze it out, and then squeeze it lightly again with either a paper towel or clean washcloth. So you want it damp and not wet. However, it does absorb your foundation, so you will eat up a little more of your foundation. However, the application is usually so delicious that it's worth it. It does go on really nicely. It makes your skin luminous and dewy, all that goodness. So yeah, and say you really love a full coverage foundation, but you hate full coverage foundation, like me. I can only use those foundations if I use this beauty blender, like the Laura Mercier that I've used, the NARS, any type of like bottle foundation. I always have to apply it with this because my freckles just look really weird with that intermediate kind of coverage. And I'm too old. Full coverage just does not look good in person. Photographs really nicely, but it doesn't look good in person. So for me, lighter coverage is best. So that's why I normally do my NARS Tinted Moisturizer for my SPF with this stippling brush. And then I'll use this tight brush here with my new palette foundation, the Lime Life. And I'll do that actually over the NARS sometimes because, like I said, I use the NARS pretty much as sunscreen. So yeah, that's makeup brushes. I think I got everything. Quick recap: natural and synthetic, both awesome. Natural may be more hard to find for eyeshadow brushes, so see if you can find them. The blending brushes, the flat brushes for the eyes, all that good stuff. Yeah, I think I got it all. If you have any questions, please note them below. Like and subscribe, please. I'm probably going to go on and do my foundation and stuff in another video. I may just whip through that. So check that out on Instagram. My Instagram is Wondermel Beauty. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about the brushes and your applications will go more smoothly and you'll be happy. So thanks. Let's make up tomorrow.